Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Mostly Photo is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com. It's time for Mostly Photo, number 7, recorded May 3rd, 2011. Catherine Hall. Mostly Photo is brought to you by Ford and the 100% reinvented 2011 Ford Explorer. With its thoughtful design, room for 7 passengers, best-in-class V6 highway fuel economy, and available sync with My Ford Touch, the 2011 Ford Explorer is perfect for your adventures with the family. For more information and to submit your photos for the Mostly Photo Adventure Awards, visit mostlyphotoadventures.com. It's time for Mostly Photo, the show that covers, 100% photo. We call it Mostly Photo because our great host, Lisa Bettany, is mostly Lisa at mostlylisa.com. Lisa is in New York City once again this week. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, everybody.
And I guess I should let, I don't know. Normally I would let you introduce this our guest of the week, but I think I might know her a little bit better than you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're our guest today, and I'm so glad to have her in studio. She's been in studio before. One of my favorite photographers, Catherine Hall from CatherineHall.net. Great to see you, Catherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, both of you.
A specialist in people photography, but today we're going to talk particularly about wedding photography. Yes?
Yes.
I should have phrased that as a question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I do recommend a visit to her site. You've now got a blog, which is great, and so that means daily updates on the site. Not just a portfolio of stuff you've shot, but also how you shoot it, featured posts, things like that. I think that's great. I really like this painted best friends. That's not a wedding photo, I take it.
No, definitely not a wedding photo.
Who are those guys?
Actually, this was a shoot in New York. The Novogratz, they are a family of designers, and they have their own show called 9 by Design, which, by the way, highly recommend it. It's a great show. But basically, I wanted to photograph their daughter, Tallulah, and I think actually I want to dissect this photo. We're going to dissect the photo later, right?
Okay, shall we save this?
Yeah, let's save it.
Good.
Because it's a good story.
I'd love to. Now, this show has never been for professionals. This show is all about amateurs, people like me. But one of the fun things we do is we get pros on to talk about how they do what they do and how an amateur could take advantage of it. And I know, Lisa, not everybody, in fact, nobody probably in our audience is a professional wedding photographer, but everybody goes to a wedding once in a while.
Oh, for sure. I think a lot of people go to weddings and want to take spectacular pictures for their friends and their family. But I do think a lot of enthusiasts who are looking to make a career in photography or even earn some money on the side, wedding photography is a great platform for that. And Catherine certainly does this amazingly well. And I wanted to bring her in and ask her everything from gear questions to how she poses people to the sort of business side of wedding photography.
Catherine brought a big bag with her.
She sure did.
You said to bring my bag.
Did you bring everything?
Well, I brought what I brought to a wedding. What I bring to a wedding.
Oh, that's good. Perfect. Yeah. I guess one thing, if you're going to do it as a professional, it might be a little different than how I might do it. It's a mission critical job.
Yeah. Well, and we're all amateurs at some point, so I know where everyone's coming from, all the listeners. So.
When was your first wedding?
Actually, it wasn't that long ago. It was in 2006, October.
So you'd been doing editorial work before you did the wedding work.
Yeah, that started when I was, 16, when my obsession began.
Were you a student and took a photography class?
Yeah, I took my first photos class in high school and just totally fell in love with it. And the passion and sort of obsession with it grew. And I studied it in college and have been doing it ever since.
Yeah.
So
where'd you go to college for
Cal
that?
Poly.
And they have a good photography?
No. It's a great school, but you don't want to go there for a photo program necessarily. I had some really amazing professors that stood out, but I mean, it's certainly not like if I was going to go back to a non-specialized school, I would probably get a business degree or a marketing degree.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because that's so much of what you have to do to make a living as a photographer.
Exactly. And the photo stuff, quite frankly, I mean, I learned a lot of it on my own, not nearly in school. So, and there's so many resources on the web right now to help, and and just getting out there and shooting is really how I actually learned. So
that's kind of encouraging, isn't it,
Yeah,
Lisa? Since that's how we
it is,
learned.
and I think it's a really great message to send out to everyone is that you don't need to spend a lot of money to become a great photographer. It's all about passion and willingness to try new things and to get your photos out there and share them with people. And it's not about spending a lot of money on a course or getting really, really expensive gear. It's more about the doing process that most photographers learn almost everything that they know from.
Well, let's talk about the specifics of wedding photography. Do you have some questions?
Oh, yes, for sure. I think our listeners were really wanted to know about the sort of main shots that you need to get in a wedding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a shot checklist? I know, I mean, I've done a few weddings. I'm by no means an expert. And one of the first things, it's just really overwhelming.
She's frozen out. We're having some trouble with her Skype connection, but I think that's enough to start. Do you have a checklist?
Yeah, Lisa brought up a really good point. Checklist is actually really important, especially for when you're initially getting started, because there's a lot of pressure and it's intense. And so it's a checklist. I don't really use it while I'm shooting per se, but it's more of if I have a second, take a minute and look at the checklist to make sure that I'm covering everything. And inevitably there's like one or two things that may have slipped my mind. And so it's more of a reminder than necessarily a guide that I'm proactively looking at throughout the day. I
mean, if I'm thinking about it, you got to have a picture of the bride and groom together.
Yeah.
Do you look for, that's kind of the key shot, isn't it? We were looking earlier at your portfolio, and there's a beautiful shot of a bride and a groom, and you could barely see the bride and the groom. It's the sunset that is surrounding them and the light that's surrounding them. It's a beautiful shot. Are you looking for that kind of signature shot for the whole thing?
That's a really good question. I think it really depends on your style as a photographer. So for, weddings is all-encompassing, meaning you're doing scene setters, you're doing portraits, you're doing photojournalism. So, you kind of, whatever your strength is. And so for me, my greatest passion is portraiture. So I've sort of marketed and make sure to focus on getting those really powerful, beautiful portraits of bride and groom separately and together.
These are some shots from Tasmania. They're not specifically wedding portraits, but I think the same technique probably applies that you're trying to... I find it fascinating that you're able to get shots of people looking at you. I'm always, when I'm trying to take pictures, I'm always saying, pay no attention to me. Don't, I want to get it candid, because every time I pull out the camera, people look at me and go, and they pose.
Yeah.
How do you keep that? Nobody wants that picture. How do you keep it from looking like that?
There's a lot of similarities between both editorial and wedding. With my wedding clients, I actually tell them not to smile. And
interesting, because these people, I'm looking here at the shots that you have here in your portfolio. They're not smiling, even the kids.
Yeah, and if you check out my, we could go to my wedding website and we could look at some of those. But the thing with weddings is it's such a happy day that they're going to naturally be laughing and smiling anyway. So some of them will be quiet and sexy and soft, and other ones will be dynamic and there'll be a lot of laughter, and I want that to be very natural. So the cheese smile is definitely something that I'm trying to avoid.
I'm the king of the cheese smile.
Yeah.
Both doing it and taking it.
Well, because people feel like they're supposed to do that. So as a, if I'm telling them as their professional, don't worry about smiling, then it sort of takes the pressure off of them.
Let me go to the wedding site. Where's the wedding site?
If you go katherinehall.net and then just click weddings.
Like right here, you mean?
Just go connect on the far right. And then click on weddings.
Click on weddings. Connect through the weddings. Got it. So this is for people who this is a portfolio.
This is my portfolio.
This is for people who are interested in hiring you for a wedding. They would go to this site.
Exactly.
We were talking before the show about the difference, how important, first of all, it is nowadays for a photographer to have a website, but not just a portfolio, a website where you communicate with your audience, you teach, maybe you you have, a reason for everybody to come back on a regular basis. But at some point, you have to have a portfolio as well, right? Because before I hire you for a wedding, I'm going to be looking at these shots of.
Yeah, and I think that's, the differentiation between a website, a stagnant website, and
this
a
is
blog.
a great one. Look at that. That is a great wedding shot. Not your typical bride and groom, or maybe those are the people at the wedding.
Parents. That's actually right when they saw their daughter for the first time.
That's beautiful. This is the one I was talking about with the bride and groom are in a sunset. You barely can see them, but you get the feeling, the emotion, right?
Yeah, and that's what it's really all about is capturing portraits that are telling an entire story with one image.
Right. What's the story here?
That was actually the bride was on the way down to the ceremony. And so
now you're a wedding photographer. You're way at the top of the stairs. The bride is going down. How are you going to get ahead of her? Don't you have to take some shots of her arriving?
Well, that's actually one comment I get a lot from guests at weddings is, I've never seen anyone move so fast. It's like I'm a samurai or something.
Ninja.
Do you ever have an assistant with you?
Yeah, I started off, I've always had a second shooter with me, and now I actually also have an assistant so that the second shooters can focus on shooting and versus assisting me. But I think when you're initially getting started, if your budget's not quite there to hire out 2 people, it's very important to at least have an assistant to help kind of maintain the stress level, because it's helping you carry your gear, making maybe driving from location to location, just someone to sort of help you keep your cool in a sense and have your back. So
you're lucky because I'm looking at some of the weddings you've shot. They're in beautiful places. I guess they always kind of are, aren't they?
Well, and that's the thing is a lot of times one remark I get is you only photograph beautiful people or you only photograph beautiful locations. And it's actually, everyone's beautiful in their own way and every location's gorgeous in its own way. So it's a matter of pulling that out.
Your job is to capture
exactly.
it.
So I've even had wedding clients say, I don't even remember, like parents of the clients saying, I don't remember it being that amazing of a setting or environment, but it's the photographer's job to show that space in the best way possible.
Now, if you had a situation where you had bad light, how do you deal with that? Do you bring in lighting to light places, or are you sort of just run and gun?
You're not allowed to say, can you hold off on the wedding until the magic hour? We would like to do it a little later.
Well, and I love that comment, Leo, because I shoot mostly outdoor weddings, and they always put the ceremony at 2 o'clock or something.
2, yeah.
So that's a really good question, Lisa. I think with the things that are out of my control, such as a ceremony, you just let it go and do the best you can. But if there are environments such as the getting ready room where you can manipulate the lighting, then I definitely will come early and scout it out and set up gear to make the best use of the space.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if this shot was specially lit or not, but this is obviously shot to catch the gown, but also the beauty of the bride, and it's just beautifully done.
Another question I have, when I was shooting a wedding, I did the portraits of the bride and groom during the actual ceremony, which was the most stressful thing ever. Do you ever set up a separate portrait session beforehand or the next day to capture those pictures when it's not in such a hustle and bustle situation?
I've seen actually really great photographs done the day after. I personally feel like the magic sort of lost the next day. Mm-hmm. It's sort of...
And you don't want to do it before.
No, you can't, because you don't...
I
want to mess up
dress.
the dress.
Yeah.
I just tell the brides, don't worry, the dress is going to get messed up. It's okay. So the day before wouldn't necessarily work unless you're doing something in studio. So for me, I highly encourage, and I think that's a big part of photographing a wedding is educating the client. And so I'm very proactive in educating them about the timeline and saying, if we can do as much beforehand as possible prior to the ceremony, then their day is going to be much better.
Look at this shot. What's great about this is the look on the face of the bride. I mean, you get a great story here, and there's the bridesmaid taking a picture and the other 2 helping her. But really what you get is the joy on her face. It just pops. And that is before the wedding. It's timing. Yeah, it's being in the right place at the right time. Helps to be a girl.
Yes, it does.
No male photographer would get this shot. But you've got, and I again, this is the parents. I mean, that's about being at the right place at the right time.
I think that also, just one quick comment on this is really following your intuition. So with this particular shot, I was focusing on the bride. She was about to walk to the church, and the natural inclination as a photographer is focus on the bride walking towards the church. But instinctually, I had a feeling of like, I need to turn around the parents. I need to see what the parents do. And when you follow that instinct and that intuition, then often the result are shots like this.
If I'm the bride, that's the most important picture in my wedding album. Don't you think? I mean, that's something that's just...
Yeah, definitely.
Incredible. I mean, what a shot to have. And so, yeah, you instinct. And of course, that comes from being somebody who does this a lot. Instinct, do you think instinct is something that you can learn or something you just have?
I think we all have it. I just think that it's the training is learning how to follow it.
Listen, yes.
Yeah. So we all have that gut feeling and that sort of intuition inside of us. And the key is, I don't even know that necessarily has to be practice in photography, but just in life itself. If you have gut feelings or intuition about anything, the more you learn to follow that and see the fortuitous results that come from it, the easier it becomes.
I love this shot of the groom and the groomsmen. You may not get into the groom's room, but you certainly got the macho side of that. That is just a fantastic shot.
I wouldn't mind if he was my groom.
Kind of cute. Woo-wee. Yeah, this is very entourage. This is yeah, I love it. Another beautiful shot. That's the shot. That's kind of the classic shot, right? The first kiss.
Yeah, definitely.
Any tips
You
there?
need the grumpy flower girl in there.
That was the royal
That
wedding.
was my favorite.
Yeah.
Part. I promised I wouldn't talk about the royal wedding. But
No, that's I mean, can you imagine? I imagine they had many, many photographers, and of course the whole press corps is there.
Yeah.
But what if you're the lead photographer on something like the royal wedding? The pressure.
That's a lot of pressure.
But that's one of the things that strikes me about a wedding photographer in general is they aren't going to restage this event because your camera broke. This has got to be the highest pressure of any kind of photography.
Yeah, I think one tip is if you don't respond well to pressure, then you probably shouldn't go into weddings.
The business.
But if you are, certain people like myself like being in high pressure environments.
You thrive on it.
You too? I
guess, yeah.
Yeah, excuse
maybe.
me. Show to show. Do you have time to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, no. Maybe you're right.
So if you are drawn to that sort of intensity, then a wedding could be a great fit for you.
Do you think it makes you better that you shoot better when you're under pressure?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think you learn that as an early age. I grew up as a competitive skier, and I watched either, my teammates, they would either get better or worse in competition.
Right.
And the ones that would thrive in competitions were the ones that did great under pressure. And
I think Lisa Bettany might know a little bit about that.
Yes.
She was a competitive figure skater.
I was one of those people that performed worse under pressure. So I'm definitely a photographer that likes to be prepared. I like lists. I like to know all my gear's working. Like I'll set it all out and make sure that I've got everything prepared. And I feel like preparedness sort of helps me with pressure type situations. But generally, yeah, I might have like a good cry after something.
It's funny because for years we've thought I should really have a pilot's checklist here in the studio before I start a show to remember to do everything. And we began this show, for people watching it live know, about 5 minutes into it, I said, I forgot to record it. So maybe I need a list. Maybe I need something like that to remind me.
I don't know that you would ever look at it.
I wouldn't. I'm not. Now, do you have a checklist before you go into a wedding?
Yes, I definitely have a checklist.
That you have the gear in your bag and you know what to take.
I have a checklist, but I'm like, I don't look at it.
You don't forget
to be
that.
honest.
You don't
I really
forget
don't
that.
look at it. And I every once in a while I'll forget something like my ladder or something. And so it's basically emergency trip to the hardware store. So I think the main thing is arriving early.
Right.
So in case
so you
traffic.
have time to buy a ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
You bring a ladder to every wedding?
I bring a ladder to every wedding.
Huh. And then you shoot down at the groom and bride, or?
Well, it's just I don't always use it at every wedding, but I'm a stickler on backgrounds, and a lot of times the backgrounds look better if I'm a little higher. And also one trick, if you have a bride that might be a little more voluptuous, it's just, do you like how I say that?
Shoot
Very
down.
PC. Yeah. So if I was shooting someone like Lisa, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But, some brides, they need all the help they can get.
Shot from above, that's sure. Nobody likes to be, that's like one tip that I wish every beginner photographer would know is never shoot up at a woman. Never.
Yeah.
And anybody. Look at my double chin. Why do you think I got the cameras above my head? No, that's true on any television studio. They'll always shoot down. They'll never shoot up. That's just
it's just a more flattering angle.
Lisa, you wanted the flower girl shot. Look at this one. This is a beautiful flower girl shot. And again, the backgrounds. You say backgrounds are important, Catherine. I can see that. The blue dress against the light blue sky and the golden flowers really make that just a beautiful picture. Of course, we're only seeing your best pictures. You don't put any of your bad pictures in your portfolio.
No, and that's actually one other really big tip is edit.
Edit.
Yeah. So whenever you're putting down a portfolio, you'll probably come out. You should probably bring it down to half of what you start with, what you think is the final.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So a question that I have is when you're dealing with a client, how do you help manage their expectations of the shots that they're going to get? Do you promise certain pictures of, like set aside, okay, I'm going to get a group shot of your family and I'm going to get a shot of you. How do you manage those expectations of what people want and how you deliver those things to them?
That's a great question because quite frankly, managing the expectations is probably one of the most important parts of your job. Because people haven't been married, or usually they haven't been married before, and so they don't really know what to expect. So from that standpoint, it's my job to educate them. And so they may come to me with a huge formal list, and the worst thing I could do is say, okay, we'll do our best to get it all in there, and then they end up not having the greatest wedding day because they're standing in formal lines for a big percentage of it.
Right.
So at that point, it's my job to educate them and say, look, we can do this. However, it's going to take this long. And do you really want this to be, put it in perspective for them so they can make educated decisions?
At my first wedding, we did that. We had a lot of posing, and it wasn't fun. It's really no fun.
It's the worst part of the day for everyone.
Yeah. And then our second wedding, we didn't have a photographer. We just gave everybody Instamatics. This was pre-digital days. This is 20 years ago. We put Instamatics on the table. We have some pretty nice pictures.
Yeah.
But
I'd be surprised what comes out of that, huh?
Yeah. But there's nothing like having somebody like you there to get, this shot of a bride. You need a professional to know how to light that and shoot that. That's never going to be an Instamatic picture.
No.
Nor is this one. I got to go to the next one because I love this.
Yeah, that one's fun.
You're really good at kids. I noticed there's a lot of kids in your portfolio.
Yeah, I like kids because they don't have as many inhibitions.
They don't pose and they're fun and they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you tell people, the brides, I think you said this, not to smile?
Yeah, not to smile.
Tell the kids that too?
That's the thing with kids is you don't really have to. The worst part is I'll get them all set up and I'm like, really, we're in a jive with each other. And then the parents walk over and they go, smile.
Ah.
And then I get the big cheesy grin. And it's like, oh, okay. I have to work through this again. So
yeah. See if
Catherine, do you have any tips for dealing with large group shots? That's sort of the hallmark of most weddings, and I personally found it the most difficult to shoot, to get everyone to pose.
I don't notice a lot of these in your portfolio, I have to say.
Well, yeah, I actually discourage those as much as possible. So when I get a lot of large group shots, I kind of say, okay, well, do you really need this? And a lot of times the clients think they need it. And if you talk to them about it further, they realize that they'd rather spend their time elsewhere than gathering large groups of people. So I actually really discourage against them. And then if I do need to do them, I explain to the bride and groom that if it's going to be large, like say 30 people or just a big group of people, I explain to them, look, I'm going to do it. It's not going to be perfect.
I'm going to do it. I don't want to do it.
There may be somebody missing because they're at the
Right.
bathroom. Somebody's head may be blocking someone else's head. But I'm not going to spend the hour that it's going to take to like perfectly organize 50 people.
And then you show the bride this picture and you say, wouldn't you rather have this? What a shot.
Yeah, and that comes back to education.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this
so that's something where you actually say, I mean, in the case of the weddings that I did, they specifically requested it. You know, I want one picture with Granny. I want one picture with all the cousins. I want all the nephews in this photo. So in that case, do you just sort of take the authority and say, no, this is what I'm going to do?
I never say no to a client per se in that sort of in that area. I think more is explaining what their options are. And more often than not, if you explain what it entails to do those type of photos and what their sacrifices are going to have to be in order for those photos to be taken or in order for me to make those photos, then usually they'll think about it. And once they realize how much of an impact that's going to have on their wedding day, they'll choose the smarter path, which is minimize.
You would have done me a big favor at my first wedding had you told me that, because we spent too much time doing it.
Yeah.
But now here's an example of what would nominally be the formal shot of the groomsmen and the groom. It's not a perfect shot. They're not all looking at the camera, and it's much better because it's natural. And did you take 20 and get the formal shot too, or just?
Yeah, I do think with everything I do take a lot, so I will get the standard, especially with the formals. I make sure to get that standard shot,
get 'em. Yeah.
And then I loosen them up. And usually the loosened up one is the one that is the most powerful.
Do you have to? I guess you have to have a lot of pictures for the bride to go through. You can't edit too much because she's got to have some to reject. You throw some in there and say, I know she's going to hate this, but I'm going to put it in there.
No.
Yeah,
go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, I have an interesting question about photoshopping the bride. What are your policies with editing and sucking in places and getting rid of?
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. Did you make this bride more beautiful than she already is? No, you can't do that.
Well,
yeah, you can.
Let's just put it this way: no one's going to complain for looking too skinny.
That's what I thought.
I am shocked.
Well, that bride, I didn't have to do anything to her because she was
it wasn't
like
her, of course.
out of the gate. But there's definitely situations where, and it could be somebody like myself. Like I'm fit, I'm thin, but if my arm's pressed against my body, it's not going to look. It's going to look distorted and bigger. So. Yeah, I'll go in and kind of fix it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Or blemishes, almost inevitable. Bride's going to get a pimple on her wedding day. You can fix that.
Exactly.
You don't want to see that. But these are such beautiful shots. I love the father of the bride shots. I don't know why. There's something about those.
No, I know. Actually, that's my favorite.
Is it?
Yeah, the relationship between father and daughter is one of the most moving, powerful aspects, I think, of a wedding day.
They always talk about the mom, but I think that's one day in the life of a daughter that really for the father is maybe even more important than for the mother, because you're the one giving the girl away, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. I'm going to cry and I don't even have a wedding to go to. These are beautiful.
So I'd love to talk more about the technical things, because a lot of people, I ask people for questions, and a lot of people want to know more the technical side. How do I get these pictures? Oftentimes weddings are indoors. You don't have great light. How do I deal with these types of situations? What kind of lenses do I use?
And she's frozen again. Let's go quickly. I'll call her back in a second. But do you want to talk about that? The technical sides? I guess that's going to come about when we see your bag, because this is your wedding bag, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Do you take two bodies?
No. A lot of photographers carry two bodies around their neck, and...
That just looks dorky.
More power to them, and I think that's great, but my back would be falling off. It would be so painful for me if I had two huge, especially using the L-series lenses.
Is the reason they do that so that they can have two lenses ready?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I definitely see the advantage of that, but I also feel like it must slow you down at times, and I think it probably evens out. Yeah. And so I actually do have a very dorky hip pack that I have on. Low Pro makes a great one. And I wear that around my hips, and my lenses are right there. So I can switch really fast.
You get good
Just
at that.
breathe. Breathe while you're switching. Because if you're stressed and try to do it too quickly, then it slows you down.
Interesting.
So
That's a tip we don't hear.
Yeah. And as far as lighting and, not the greatest situations, one thing I do carry with me is I have ProPhoto makes their D1000 kit, and you can rent them. They're certainly a big investment, but the great thing about those is they have an air system, and so you're really not, there's no sync cords, or you're not using pocket wizards. Everything's organically put together by ProPhoto, and it's really fast. And so that's the one lighting setup that I'll take with me and use in reception areas if necessary.
In fact, you actually have there's a page on your blog about this. You obviously are very into the ProPhoto.
Yeah, ProPhoto gear it's the best. And I think, with weddings, it's really important to utilize the best that technology has, because it's a one-time opportunity. So everyone deserves to have a photographer using the best quality that they can for their wedding day. That's how I feel.
How about the lighting for something like this?
Window light's gorgeous too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, she's backlit. Do you use a fill flash to?
I am not a huge fan of fill flash. California sunbounce is like, I will not go anywhere without a California sunbounce, which is a reflector.
So you're not using a flash, you're just using a reflector.
I love reflectors.
Now you need an assistant.
Yeah.
That's what your assistant's doing. Yeah,
exactly. And your assistant, you don't have to have, when you're first starting out, if you can't afford, a professional assistant, it could be like, I started off with having my boyfriend as my assistant. And so it doesn't have to be expensive, and you can rent the gear.
Boyfriends are notoriously cheap.
Yes, they are.
My advice to you, get a boyfriend if you don't already have one, and teach him how to hold a reflector.
Yeah.
I love this shot. Now, do you go and say, okay, bride and groom, come with me. We're going to walk around and we're going to get candids? Pretty
much. Yeah. And so, I'll scout it out beforehand. And this goes back to what Lisa was saying. I think being prepared is really important. So I'll definitely get an idea of my surroundings so that the time with my bride and groom is used most efficiently.
Right.
But then I will go around and say, okay, this is going to be a great background. Let's play over here. And we sort of go explore and have a really good time together.
Let's play a little game.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds. Find the bride and groom in this picture. Where the hell did you go? You went all the way down the cliff.
Where's Waldo?
Just to get this picture.
Yeah, and that's the obsession of perfection, I think.
I'll be back in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going down the cliff now. Did you shout? Did you say, okay, kiss her?
Yeah, I've been known to shout. And this is where your assistant comes in handy again.
Walkie-talkies? Do you bring a walkie-talkie?
Actually, I started bringing, I'm sort of a gear nerd. But I actually, for some weddings, if the venue calls for it, I have been known to have a walkie with my assistant, my second shooter.
Be very handy in this particular locale.
Yeah. With a dorky earpiece, so we look like we're in the CIA.
Catherine's going to jump off the cliff now. When she meets the midpoint.
Oh yeah, be careful. That's the other thing is I have been known to almost fall in things because you get so obsessed with getting the right angle. So.
But what a great shot! I mean, again, any bride and groom would be so happy to have these kinds of pictures. And I could tell you, most professional wedding photographers would never get that shot. That's the editorial in you.
Thank you.
Don't you think? I mean, they're going to say, "Oh no, you can't see the bride. Where are they? They're tiny." But
I guess so. I guess there's that mix of
yeah.
And then also, I do a lot of work for magazines, and I think that magazines, well, that goes what you said, editorial, but they want a story.
Yeah.
And so you
that
learn
picture
how to
tells
shoot a story.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a really important point, I think, for anyone, even somebody who's just attending a wedding, not a professional photographer, is telling the story of that wedding. So try to get all the elements of that day from, the bride and groom arriving, to the food, the place settings, to the mood of the people. That's something that you can do even if you have just an iPhone, something that you can capture as the actual story of the event rather than sort of pictures that don't necessarily go together.
You
Exactly.
mentioned place settings. Look, this beautiful robin's eggs in the nest, and that's a beautiful place setting. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that's an
They
easy
gave
one.
you that one.
That was the designer, not me.
That's a gimme on that one. Wow, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
And you know, I shouldn't say that because I will try to take that picture, and it will not look that good. I can tell you right now. Maybe with my iPhone, I can.
No, I bet you could do. I bet you surprise yourself.
Do you have any tips?
Yeah, we lost her again. Now, this is an interesting shot. This is not something you would normally include in a portfolio. It looks like the bride in her trousseau.
Yeah. So, I think this shot was included just to say, look, and I think that's what your portfolio should do is definitely emphasize your strengths. And so with that shot, I want to tell brides and prospective brides, look, I can, even when they're down in their, as they would say, skivvies, they're still comfortable around me.
Hell yeah. I mean, that is.
And if someone's beautiful and I have a great
why
body,
not?
go for it.
Do it now while you can.
Well, exactly. I wish someone did that before I started going downhill.
Before you start going downhill, get Catherine to do your
Unless
your
you're
wedding.
like Leo and you go reverse cycle,
Yeah, I'm getting better looking.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that.
Over
What's
the
your
years.
secret, Leo?
I got a portrait in the attic. It's all about the attic portrait. Now, sometimes you have older brides. This is a little bit of an older bride. Do you do anything special for them? Or?
No, I think, if definitely as in this bride, this wouldn't apply. But if you do have older brides, like I have brides since their second marriage, and they're maybe in their 40s or their 50s. So just lighting them in a way that's flattering and understanding that very harsh directional light is going to bring out imperfections like wrinkles and aging spots and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So
using a more soft light that has a really forgiving wrap is really good with older brides.
And you don't apparently eschew the wide angle shot every once in a while.
No, I think wide angle's good.
Yeah.
But I think wide angle the entire wedding is a sin.
Not good. Makes everybody look kind of weird.
Oh, gosh. I've seen a lot of weddings like that. And the sad thing is I think to the client, it looks great at the time, but
it doesn't age well.
It does not age well.
Yeah.
It loses its sort of luster quickly.
Yeah. It's a little gimmicky.
It's very gimmicky.
On the other hand, I mean, if you're going to shoot the scene, it's nice to have that.
Exactly.
Can we talk lenses now?
Yeah.
What lenses you use, what they're good for, giving really technical tips for some of our listeners?
Yeah, I think, especially if you're just getting started, I would recommend starting off with the zoom lens if you're going to make one purchase.
Like the 7200, something like that?
Yeah, I started with a 24 to 70, and I actually, it depends on what I'm shooting, but that was initially my lens of choice.
That's kind of short, so you're really getting in
Yeah,
there.
I like to be close. So what I would recommend is renting both the 24 to 70 and the 70 to 200 and seeing which one you use more because everyone's different.
See, I would have thought, not never having done this, that you would want to get out of the picture so the longer lenses would be more useful for you so you can get the close shots but not be right in their faces.
Well, the longer lenses are also more flattering too, from a perspective point. So it really just depends though, because if your style is being more intimate and being involved, then you're going to do better with a shorter lens.
And that is your style, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it more comes down to individual taste and just getting out there, renting the lenses, see which one you gravitate towards, and then make that, when you do decide to purchase, make sure it's the right initial first lens, the one you're going to use the most, and make sure you get a high quality glass lens because that's...
You said you use L lenses only.
Yeah, I use L lenses only.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's essential.
That's the top of the line Canon lens for you Nikon shooters. And I do recommend the Profoto Rainbow Kit because whenever you can put a rainbow behind a bride and groom, come on, you painted that in.
No, I did not paint that in.
Come on.
That was real. I don't paint in skies. That's one step I don't. I'll bring in the natural, but I'm not about to pull in artificials.
Lightroom?
Unless it's...
Lightroom?
I use Lightroom on every photo.
We have to ask everybody that, Lightroom or Aperture. And it's funny how many pros use Lightroom. It seems to be.
The thing for me is Lightroom is very intuitive.
Yeah.
It's sort of an extension of Photoshop, whereas aperture, while I'm sure it's equally as good a tool, it's clumsy for me.
Yeah. You said to the bride, "Let's go wander in the vineyard."
Yes.
Do brides sometimes fight you, especially when they're in a nice white dress like that?
Yeah, and that goes back to education. Just telling them, looking the
gonna
bride
look
in the
great.
eye and
It's gonna be
saying,
great.
it's going to be, you
Trust
know what?
me.
Your dress is going to get dirty, but who cares?
And I think a certain amount of that is trust of you, too, as the photographer.
Yeah, exactly.
So if they've seen your portfolio and they know, oh, she likes to do these kind of interesting shots with the bride and groom out in the field, and look at that. I love that. You also have an eye for color.
I love color.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're saying, okay, I like this cream suit. There's a nice backdrop. Or is that what happened?
I it's interesting because I think it's definitely a balance between finding the best light and the best background. But backgrounds are really important to me, and the reason being is I want it to be easy for the viewer to know where to look.
Right.
And if you have distracting backgrounds, then the power of the photo can get lost.
Good point. So this pulls you. I mean, it's a good background, but it's clear that who we're.
Yeah, it's not. Where your eye is instantly going to go to the blue tie and the groom.
I guess, Lisa, that's kind of the telling the story part too. Is you tell the story by drawing the eye.
Yeah, and a question I have, are you using mainly natural light here, or do you use any light modifiers? Do you use a flash? Anything on your outdoor pictures when you have harsh sunlight? Are you balancing that, or are you mainly using your reflector?
Mostly using my reflector, and I
Is
personally
the white side or the gold side?
I use typically the gold or the silver,
Okay.
actually. But I just like the quality of the light of a reflector.
It's much more
the
natural.
sun
It's-
versus
yeah.
a fill flash.
Yeah.
And you can see it a lot better too. So for photographers that are just getting started out, I think it's a lot easier to use a continuous source versus a flash.
Talk about telling a story. Look at this. The bride's sitting in the background, hand on her chin with her bouquet. And here's a cute little boy in the front. I just love that.
Yeah, that was fun.
You didn't pose that. That just happened, I guess.
No, that was sort of, it definitely was posed.
You love this kid, though, because this is the one with the Rolls Royce, isn't it?
No, it's actually a different
different
kid,
one.
different side of the country.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, this is San Francisco. The other was New York. It's sort of, I just get these ideas, and I think that's another thing for beginning photographers is you have a lot of ideas, and sometimes it's better if you don't. Going back on what Lisa was talking about initially in the beginning, it's better if you don't have the formal education because it allows you to play more. So when you get these kind of crazy ideas, do them. And sometimes they don't work, and that's fine, know. And sometimes they do work, and it's amazing. So it's just go for it. Don't be safe.
This is a natural light shot, obviously, but probably a timed, right? Slow
Yeah,
shutter.
this is a combination. I used I bounced the pro photo heads off the top of the ceiling to add
that glow up
some
there.
ambient
Yeah,
light in there.
yeah.
It's because I really wanted to balance it so you could see the outdoors because they got, if you look through, it's
So beautiful.
redwoods out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So really showing the whole space, including the outside.
Do you ever use tripods or monopods?
I hate tripods, but yes.
Why do you hate them?
Because I like to move,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slow you down.
Yeah, so I found the actual solution for me is finding a tripod that is most mobile and easiest to use. So I have a Gitzo that's amazing. It's super lightweight. I can bring it anywhere. And I have one of it's a Manfrotto joystick. It's actually on my gear page if you look on my blog. But it's a joystick tripod head, and it's so easy to move around. And so the evolution of tripods has actually made me like them. But just the idea of like having my camera stuck to something is something that I'm a little resistant to.
By the way, I do recommend CatherineHall.net and the gear page here. Here's the bounces she uses.
Oh yeah, those
all
are the
kits.
best by far.
Yeah, California Sun Bounce Pro. This is great. I like it that you do. I think every photographer should do a gear page.
And the other thing too is
$3,280 for that Pro Photo D1000.
I know,
Okay.
worth every penny.
Is this the Manfrotto head you were talking about?
Yeah,
The
that
5-1?
thing's great.
Yeah.
And it's so, because that's the worst part with I think that's why I hated traditional tripods is I don't like all the dials. It slows me down. Whereas
Right.
with the joystick, it's just, yep, click, go, done. Technology evolution is good.
Lisa, do you have any final questions? We're running out of time, and we're having so much fun talking to Catherine Hall. It's great stuff.
I just really a really specific technical tip for anyone who's taking pictures at a wedding but not a professional. Do you have any technical tips for them?
Let me think. Technical tip.
Go for the bazooms. I'm sorry.
Go for that's part of it.
If the bride looks great, you're going to look great.
Yeah, no, actually I'm going to take what Leo just said and build on that. I think the biggest tip I would give is looking for people's strengths. And so if you have a bride that whatever their characteristics are, whether it's beautiful
romantic.
smile, breasts, eyes, whatever it is, play on their strengths. Right. And then inevitably if you show the best side of them, then obviously you're going to look good.
And
yeah.
Be romantic. This is the most romantic shot I've ever seen.
Definitely.
It makes me want to fall in love, doesn't it? It's just beautiful.
So.
Yeah. Romance. You got to have romance in your heart if you're going to be a good wedding photographer.
This is why I'm not a wedding photographer.
You're not a romantic, huh?
No.
The truth comes out. Look at these. These are so fun. These are so great.
And have fun. That would be the other one. It is a stressful event in the sense that it's just super important. You can't do things over, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't play and have fun.
So you have 3 tips. We'll do them fairly quickly because you've given us so many tips. Tip 1, be open-minded. What do you mean by that?
All of my tips will play off of everything we've already discussed, but I think being open-minded, and this especially for, this is for new photographers or old photographers, but play with different things and try different lenses and experiment. If you shoot something one way, push yourself to try a different different perspective that you may not have initially thought of.
That's what an artist is, right?
Yeah.
Is somebody who doesn't think inside the box. You have to kind of be able to, it's called being creative.
Yeah, and I think that applies to any level. The other is for new photographers, I often get the question, my most asked question probably is, how do you find your style? And I think the interesting thing is you can't necessarily find your style. I think your style finds you, and the way in which that happens is just getting out there and practicing. And I think, Lisa, you've been a really good role model for this, just, following your blog and just shoot. And this goes to the last tip, which is share. And, like with Lisa's Camera Plus app, that's great. And you guys talked a lot on episode 5 about sharing, which would be a good resource, but really getting your work out there. So not only people are seeing your work, but you're also getting feedback, and that will allow you to grow and stay inspired.
Couldn't agree more. One last picture. I just got to show this. You got to tell me the story behind this. Did these guys pose? Did you just hide?
This was definitely, I put this together. However, I think with every shot,
great shot,
it has to be real in the sense that while I fabricated this and told the guys to come over by the candles and all of it, this was still something that would be very true to this groom. Like, he did bring the cigars.
Yeah.
These are all his buddies. Like, this is his type of shot. And so I think it's great a lot of times if you don't put it together, it just won't happen. But pose things in a way that are true to your clients.
I just love this. And it does look natural. It does look like it's really happening. But obviously, to light it and everything and get them in the right, positions and everything, took a little effort, but boy, it looks natural. Lisa, Bettany, the chat room has picked a job that you might like.
Yes.
They want you to be a divorce photographer.
Oh, nice. Oh, snap.
Hey, if you're not a romantic, perfect.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a break, come back. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I'd love to take a little peek into Catherine Hall's bag. She brought her whole wedding kit, except for the ladder. You didn't bring the ladder.
No, I didn't bring the ladder.
Yeah, brought a whole wedding kit with her. But we do want to tell you all about our Mostly Photo Adventures awards, because we are every week giving out a prize for the best pictures, thanks to our friends at Ford and the all-new 2011 newly redesigned Ford Explorer. And we have some winners, right, Lisa, this week?
We do. Some amazing photos. Thank you so much for sharing your photos. And please continue to share your photos on our Mostly Photo group, Mostly Photo No Space.
Yeah, go to flickr.com. Actually, if you have to have a Flickr account. So, and most of you do by now. And if you don't, well, get one. It's free. And, if you already have a Yahoo account, you probably already have one. Once you go to your Flickr account, go to the groups. And you can search for a group, and as Lisa said, it's Mostly Photo, one word, no S, Mostly Photo. There are other groups that I created, stupidly, to confuse you. Don't go to that one. Go to Mostly Photo. There's 1,741 members. That's how you know. And 6,000 photos on here. We have 3 nominees for next week, but let's start with our winners for this week. We showed you a few last week. And why don't we start with the one that you picked, Lisa, as your favorite?
Yes, for sure. This is a gorgeous picture.
It is The Sky Painted Red by Joshua Gunther. You like the HDRs, don't you?
Well, it's Trey. Like I said, I used to hate HDRs, and now I just love them.
Yeah. There's something magical. I just love them. And especially something like this, a cityscape, really brings it to life, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say about this photo before we go to the...
No, just say it's amazing color. Obviously, I'm like Catherine. I love color, so this photo has everything from spectacular.
But it was a tie. We don't have a clear winner, so we're going to give each of you a $100 Amazon gift certificate. The tie was between this and Chris Vicchio and The Wretched Sentinel, a lone tree at sunset in Mikumi National Park, Tanzania. Beautiful. Beautiful shot, especially because of the colors and the gradients in here, and just really comes to life.
Definitely. This is sort of a more natural picture, just having such a fantastic location and being there at the right moment and capturing a beautiful composition. So
actually, am I wrong? Those were the People's Choice winners. That's why it was a tie. I couldn't understand how it could be a tie. Those were the
but my pick was the red painted sky anyways.
So there you go. So I guess what will happen is Joshua gets both a $100 gift certificate for Amazon.com for Lisa's pick, and then he tied with the People's Choice Award. I'm not surprised with the Sentinel, the Wretched Sentinel, to be our. That's awesome. So congratulations to both of you. $100 certificates coming your way thanks to Ford and the new, all redesigned 2011 Ford Explorer. Let me open up here our 3 contenders for next week. The easiest way to do this, if you'd like to participate, is to go to mostlyphotoadventures.com. That's the website that we've set up for this. And click the finalists tab. Instructions there on how to post, by the way. And here's our 3 finalists.
And I'm happy to say that one of them was actually taken during our Mostly Photo Walk in New York.
You're kidding.
Yeah, and it's an amazing, amazing picture.
Is that the Kenny Lee shot?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is a spectacular picture. Obviously, perfect timing on the streets of New York. You said it was a little raining during your adventure.
It was a rainy, horrible day, and this group of
Scottish
wedding
people.
goers, yeah, Scottish wedding people were out, and I was actually further behind, so I didn't manage to even get near these. But he ran up and took the shot, and power to him for just taking that moment and grabbing it.
You couldn't have posed this shot better. I hope that he calls the wedding photographer, says, "Hey, I got a better shot than you do." That's Kenny Lee. Now, to vote for these, Lisa's going to pick her favorite. But to vote for these, you can tweet just using the hashtag Mostly Photo Award and then a number. That's 8. Here's number 7, Mostly Photo Award 7. Oh my goodness, another great HDR shot.
I like the perfectly.
The bird. You couldn't do better getting that bird right on the pier there. And the sun coming down. Sometimes I have to say, I don't know how you feel about this, Catherine, but great photographers are damn lucky. Do you think how does that happen?
It's not luck, it's patience.
That's one thing I learned in Tasmania is that people like Bruce Dale just wait.
I know.
They just wait until the perfect shot. Finally, our third contender here. This is a pretty one. Another HDR shot. This is by Eric Fleury, and this is Mostly Photo Award 9 if you want to vote for that one. Eric Fleury, and we'll go to the Flickr group. This is taken in France, in Provence, Alpes, Côte d'Azur. What a surprise. Everything's more pretty in France. So three excellent pictures. And again, if you go to mostlyphotoadventures.com, you can see these finalists and the instructions on how to tweet the winners. You have till May 8th. We'll announce the winners on our next show, May 10th. Mostly Photo.
I'd also like to choose a topic for next week. I'd like it.
What was the topic for this week?
We didn't have one,
Okay.
so it was really difficult to choose. So this week I'd love to get people shooting some portraits and using the tips that we're talking about today. So get out and shoot some people pictures.
People pictures from what you've learned today from Catherine Hall. That's a challenge.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. Go to catherinehall.net and get some inspiration there. And thank you to all of our participants. And don't forget to check out, when you go to the website, mostlyphotoadventures.com, the all-new 2011 Ford Explorer, completely reinvented and looking pretty sweet. I got to say, this is we drove one around at the last photo walk, and it just was so spectacular. Lots of room. We were able to get 7 in there easily, plus all the camera gear. 3 rows of seats, a large cargo capacity. In fact, if you really need more, you fold down the second and third row and you get 80.7 cubic feet. Big 3.5-liter V6 engine. But let me tell you something. You still get best-in-class 25 miles per gallon, according to the EPA on the highway. Towing capacity of up to 5,000 pounds. Of course, the great My Ford Touch built in there, which is the Ford Sync with the big 8-inch screen in the center console, the 2 little screens behind the steering wheel, and absolute control of everything you want to listen to, the climate, everything that's going on in the vehicle. It's just, every time I get in my Mustang, I go, yeah, love the Ford Sync and the special optional My Ford Touch. Take a look at the 2011 Ford Explorer at a dealer near you, and don't forget to visit mostlyphotoadventures.com to find out more. We're done with the photo walks for now, Lisa, but I have some video from your previous photo walk in New York City.
This is a great, and actually so many people put up pictures this time and linked them on the group, so thank you so much for that. And it was great meeting people and connecting with people, and certainly for me, being in New York for a few weeks, it's great to know that there are other photographers out here. And
oh yeah, there are a few in New York.
Yeah, just a few.
Just a few. Lisa Bettany is at moslylisa.com. It's always a great pleasure. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us. I hope you come home soon so we can see you in studio once again. And don't forget Catherine Hall and her amazing images. These are some from Tasmania when you were down there, but there are a whole bunch more on her website, catherinehall.net. The kid pictures just blow me away, but you're so good at these landscapes too. I mean, just incredible stuff. We had fun in Tasmania. This is not Tasmania.
No. We've shifted gears. I gotta come back and do an editorial session.
Would you? These are your editorial images.
Yeah.
And
that would be great.
I would love that, because there's something you do that's just, it's creepy. That's very bad seed. I hope that wasn't a wedding, because if it is,
no,
that girl's not happy. Sometimes teenagers, it's funny. I know pictures of my kids as teenagers. You can really see how hard it is being a teenager.
Teenager's hard.
Yeah.
You cannot pay me to go back.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to go back there. Here's somebody who loves his dogs. Great shots. Catherine, so nice to have you back in studio once again. You're just fantastic. We love your pictures. We love your images. CatherineHall.net is the place to go if you want to see more of her work, or if you're a bride and you're planning a big day. Do you just New York and California, or do you?
Oh, I'll go anywhere.
She'll go anywhere and shoot anything as long as there's a beautiful bride and a beautiful backdrop.
Check out the new blog.
Yes. That's new on the website.
Yeah, catherinehall.net/blog.
But if you go to catherinehall.net, there's a link too.
A link right there. Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to find it, and it's a great site. Do go to the gear page too. It makes me want to spend money. But
It makes me realize how much money I've spent.
but the gear page really is, it's something, it's aspirational. We didn't get to look in your bag, but there it is. It's all there.
Yeah, that's true.
All the lenses. Catherine says they're much shinier than they were.
Yeah, and I have to say, with going with your 50 1.2, the 85 1.2 is my favorite as far as inspirational lens.
If I could afford that lens, maybe I should put that next on my list and save up.
That lens is amazing.
Do you like it better than the 50? Have it a little bit longer?
I actually like the 50 better, but just for portraits, it's a more flattering angle. A
little bit longer.
It's more flattering than 85.
I don't care about flattering people, and I ain't buying another 1.2 lens. That's it.
No,
That's it. I might buy one of these bounces though. Those are cool.
The bounces are awesome.
A must-have.
By far better than any other reflector on the market.
Catherine, great to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We do mostly.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We do mostly photo every Tuesday right after Mac Break Weekly, usually around 1:30 Pacific. That's 4:30 Eastern at live.twit.tv. But you can always watch the show after the fact by searching for Mostly Photo on iTunes or by going to twit.tv. I want to have to check because somebody said it's twit.tv/photo. Is that what it is?
It's photo, yes.
Okay, I've been saying it wrong then, and I apologize. I was really hoping it'd be mofo.
I have one thing to say. I'm really excited about the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations. It's going to be really great.
Well, I think what's fun about this show, and I know you highlight This Week in Photography. You've been on that show many times. Is this show is really a little different from that show. That's about enthusiasts having a great time talking about photos. I mean, I love photography, and I love listening to that show. This show, we're really going to focus on being a better photographer.
Oh, it feels a completely different tone.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So. Thank Lisa for that. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you next time for Mostly Photo.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the New York Mostly Photo Walk. We're here with an enthusiastic crowd of photographers ready to shoot some street photography. We don't have the best weather, but we're going to make the best of it. And I just want to say hi to my youngest photo walk participant ever. He's prepared for the rain with this guy. What have you got here?
Camera.
A camera? A G9, awesome. And you're ready for all kinds of weather. Awesome. So let's start with shooting the Apple Store. It's a bit busy today, but there's some good shots to be had. So let's start there. It just depends what you want to capture.
Okay.
A 50 is great for people stuff. If you wanted to get street shots, we're gonna walk around and there's horses and flowers and that kind of thing. But if you wanted to get sort of the whole scene in here with the buildings, you're not going to be able to get all that.
All right.
Or you're really going to have to be, with a fixed lens, you really have to move your body to get the shot.
Yeah.
You know? So you might be the person like right in the back to try to fit everything in. Because obviously with something like, a wide angle lens, you can get a lot more in it.
Plus with the crop sensor, it's...
But this is a great lens. I mean, grab shots of other photographers, people shots. That stuff's really cool, that kind of a lens. I think when you're dealing with glass, there's always the potential of either getting reflection of a building off of it, so you can see that the plaza is reflected off of this side, which looks kind of cool. Once you get into the habit of doing everything yourself, you find that the presets just don't really give you exactly what you want.
How much do you use Lightroom alone for 80% of your shot?
I always, for everything that I post on Flickr, I'm using Lightroom and Photoshop. So I go back between the two.
What did you use for your HDRs when you did that Buckingham Palace shot?
That was Photomatic.
Photomatic, is that what you use all the time?
I just recently started to use it. I used to actually do all fake HDRs before, all in Photoshop. One great thing about shooting macro type images in the rain is you don't have a lot of glare. So with the sun you have harsh shadows, but this we have a nice balanced light, and we also have raindrops, and I actually usually add raindrops with a spritzer, but I don't have to do that today because we've got raindrops. Little horsey. He seems really tired. Poor little horsey. I think as an exercise, everyone should pick another photographer and take a portrait. Hey, let me take you some random pictures of you. It's your wedding. You can stealth them. You could get a pretty good stealth shot if you had a zoom lens. We're just exiting Central Park and we're about to head down 5th Avenue. So now I think we're going to focus more on street photography. So I'm going to get these people, their reflection in them. So we're in front of the very iconic Plaza Hotel and we're going to sneak inside and grab some shots. I don't think that you guys in the camera are allowed, but we'll share all of our shots after with you. We officially got kicked out! It's not a mostly photo shoot unless you get kicked out of a venue, so yay!
What kind of shots did you get?
There was a really cool ceiling in there, so we made sure to change our white balance or else everything was really, really yellow, so we changed it to tungsten in there, and we were shooting sort of, there were lots of little details. There were flowers, and there was cool chandeliers and a cool roof, so hopefully we got some nice indoor shots. Obviously the light wasn't so great, so we had to increase our ISO quite a bit. I was at ISO 1600 for most of my shots.
What are you taking a shot of?
The spare. Window displays are kind of cool to shoot because they're already crafted. Oh, we'll definitely get kicked out of Trump Tower. Yeah. You're fired.
Actually, Trump Tower has a really nice waterfall you can take a picture of, and there's also a bamboo area where it's inside.
Quite dark in here, so I'm probably gonna go up to ISO 1600. See what we can do.
If you really wanted to go all the way up, you can actually go up on the roof, but it's probably too much.
Maybe to have a monopod so you can increase your shutter speed to make it a little bit longer so you can get that streaming water. And now we're going to head down 5th Avenue towards the Rockefeller Center. Like we have this church here, and it's sort of the contrast of this really old church and these brand new buildings. So it's kind of cool to show the entire scene, which a wide angle lens will do. Oh, there's an Atlas guy. Hello, Atlas guy. Right now I'm just gonna shoot an HDR because I can't get enough light. And this guy's completely blown out, so I'm just gonna shoot an HDR. Nice, yeah, it's the only way to go. Except this way you're getting his butt. What is that covering his butt? He's got something covering his butt, so it's not too indecent. Well, we've been walking for hours and we've had an amazing photo walk here in New York City. What an amazing day. We'd like to thank Ford for providing this amazing opportunity for us to all get together. And we'd love for the photo walk participants to share their photos on the Flickr group. That's mostly photo, no space. And for all of you to share your photos. So take care, and we'll let you know when the next photo walk is. Yay!